Welcome back to the After Actions podcast, where on the last episode, we brought on board one of the drill instructors from Marine Corps Recruit Depot, Paris Island. He's no longer a drill instructor, but he does have the experience. Just like we of the After Action podcast, we're no longer recruiters, but we have the experience. So that's what we talk about here. But in that last episode, we were discussing all things from recruiting perspectives and bouncing that off of the drill instructor and same vice versa. But ultimately, we discussed these topics for about an hour, and we just feel like we only scratched the tip of the iceberg. So we wanted to get back into it. And we also were missing one of our co-hosts, and we want to get his opinions on all of this stuff too. So we're going to jump into this episode. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you're notified every time a new episode drops. Make sure you like the video if you like the video. We wanted to bring Ant on so we could get his perspective of all of this. What's your experiences as far as sending a kid to the depot, either making sure that they're prepared, or maybe an experience of sending a kid that you might think is not going to make it, but the mission bell is always out there ringing and you're just trying to do what you need to do. What's your thoughts on all of that?
It's recruiting, you know what I mean? So recruiting itself is stressful as hell. We do our best to make sure everybody's, ready mentally, physically, emotionally to go to boot camp. And especially sometimes as long as we have them, from a month to, 6-7 months, you can kind of start to understand like, hey, this kid's going to go down and have some trouble because he's falling out of the little PTs that we have. You know what I mean? He's not grasping knowledge and stuff, like it's just not clicking for him. But it's my job to get him ready, at least to hit the minimal standards to go down there and be successful at boot camp. And sometimes you just know after spending so long, like, yeah, like he's not going to do it. Like, I'm going to pray and hope, because if not, the boss is going to be on my ass. The boss's boss is going to be on his ass. So, like, I'm going to just go down there and kind of just like that booger, like, hope he fucking sticks. It's hard because, you know what I mean? You want everybody to go and be successful, but at the same time, as recruiters, I'm like, bro, like, I did my job. I found someone. He wanted to join the Marine Corps. He's out there, like, hopefully that drill instructor, can make him become United States Marine. But like once he's gone, like it's out of my hands type of things. So like I get it. It looks like we're sending people down there to quit or not be successful. I really try to make sure everybody I sent down there was successful. But I mean, like everybody's not built the same. It doesn't grasp right away. That drill instructor just really has to, spend in that extra work with them. I used to think all the time, like you said, like, yeah, like drill instructors just don't want my kids. Like they know, hey, these guys are coming from Syracuse, New York. Like we're going to fuck with them. At least that's what I thought whenever someone would get kicked back. But again, I'm not a drill instructor. I didn't try to be a drill instructor. I just try to get them, to understand how the Marine Corps could benefit them and PT them the best I could and give them a little glimpse or a taste of boot camp. But I did my best. I sent them down hoping that they would make it. But really, man, like, there'll be kids that are gonna struggle, might not make it, and you're gonna get that phone call from that drill instructor like, hey, this fucking kid wants to quit, like talk to him. And I'm like, hey bro, like please don't quit, like you're gonna make my life over, like dog, just do it. You remember you wanted to do this? It's just something that's unfortunate that really happens, man, honestly.
Yeah, I know that I've been in a situation before where I had a kid that had the potential to make it. He wasn't weak, he was smart, but he just seemed a little flaky. And what I ended up doing was sending him to boot camp on the same ship window as two of my strongest kids. Like one was my guide and one was a squad leader. And he actually went to school with one of those kids. So I sent all three of them on the same exact day, hoping that was going to, boost the chances of this kid making it. And he needed to go. He came out of one of the worst schools in the area. He only graduated because I was walking him by the hand through the hallways of his school. Like he was a smart kid, but he wasn't on track to graduate. So I'm literally like taking him to summer school, talking to the guidance counselors, all of this stuff. And, he was like emancipated, right? Like, so his parents weren't even in the picture. And it was just kind of like this crazy situation. And then the last second, he became a little bit flaky because, his girlfriend and this and that. So I partnered him up with two strong poolies that he had relationships with. And as soon as I shipped them out and I found out his platoon number, I was already writing a letter, trying to, reinforce, his reasons for being there. And by the time the letter even got mailed there, the dude was, already, had given up. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Like, so I think that sometimes there's really just nothing that we could do. Some are going to make it, whether we help them or not. Some aren't, whether we help them or not. And I just truly believe it comes down to the person, the young man or woman, and what they want to do. Are they going to push themselves through or not? Like, hearing something like that, Josh, does it maybe change your opinion a little bit, or what are your feelings on all that?
Yeah, let me reintroduce myself again for those of you who don't know me. Again, I'm a staff sergeant. I've been in the Marine Corps for 10 years. I did my DI tour from the years of 2020 to 2023, and I'm right now stationed at K-Bay just to resume everything that we just talked about last episode. So yes, it does change my mind when it comes to what your story, telling me that the kid came down and just quit. By the way, quitting is not an option. The quickest way out of the island is to graduate.
Yep.
That's it. However, there are still recruits that find a way to crack the code, but it does not look good because of commitment issues. So you might not be able to get a federal job if you quit, and you might not be able to join or at all another branch of service if you want to, because again, commitment issues. But it does change my perspective. I think we don't have too many kids that we worry about when it comes to physical standards. When they fail the IST and they're at receiving, the chiefs and the other seniors talk to us and say, "Hey, you want to see the scores?" And as a senior drone starter, you're like looking at the scores and you see the pull-ups suck, maybe one pull-up or zero pull-ups, and you see the run time, they suck, and you see the plank, they suck, or the crunches at the time, and they suck. But you take that as a challenge, and you're like, well, I'm still gonna take this kid from being nothing to being something, right? The thing that we worry about the most, again, is those kids that don't have the internal fortitude to keep going, keep pushing, and they are knocking on our hatch and saying like, this crew does not want to train. Then that's when it becomes a problem. Or the kids that have integrity problems, right? So they steal, they cheat, because core values are a thing, right? And
Yep.
especially in the Marine Corps. So
Integrity.
yeah, integrity, right? So that becomes a problem. I don't mind when the kid goes down there and he's not physically ready. I can take that all day. But again, core values, or the kid just being a crybaby, he doesn't want to do it. He doesn't want to, even though you're getting in his face and you're like, I don't give a freak about your freaking feelings, right? The kid will still find a way to malinger.
It almost, now that I kind of see the full picture, it almost like makes me wonder, because like our expectation is for them to enlist, they already need to be doing this. Like, that kind of just depends on the recruiting station or whatever. But ours, I think they needed to do at least at least 2 pull-ups. They had to bust out, I don't know, 40 crunches or something like that. But then by the time they go to do their IST, they needed to do a minimum of 3, right? But ultimately, hearing what you're saying, I'm being told like by my headquarters, well, these people need to do at least this, but also, where's your kids at? Like, we need to make our recruiting mission. Yep. So if I already know the kid's not going to be able to do a pull-up, but the whole point of the delayed entry program is to prepare them to be able to do pull-ups so that they can go to boot camp, I'm literally going to have one of my recruiters recording a video of the kid doing pull-ups, because I know he's going to go to MEPS and not be able to do it. So I'm going to have a recruiter recording this kid doing pull-ups with his feet cut out the bottom. And I'm down there outside the camera, like lifting his feet up to show my boss he can do a pull-up, right? Just so that he can enlist. And then boom, they're in the pool. They're in the delayed entry program, and they're either ready or they're not ready, whatever. But I wonder if, like, not the standard to become a Marine needs to change, but the standard to get to boot camp, because you could have the weakest kid out there that's the strongest mentally that can be developed. And I guess that's like the point of boot camp. Like from what I'm hearing, that's the kind of kid that you're looking for, is somebody that's willing to be trained and developed and pick up what you're putting down. Whereas we've all already said, like, we've sent people to Parris Island busting out 23 pull-ups and they only make it 2 weeks. So I almost wonder if that needs to be addressed. Like, Lou, what do you think about all of that?
Yeah, so that's a lot up to that particular command's discretion. I know where you're coming from because obviously we're a part of the same command. I'm telling you right now, when I went down to the my next command after Syracuse, the standard was different. Like, do we want kids doing pull-ups and being PT ready and stuff like that? Of course. But we had somebody, a Marine, that freaking made sense of the situation and said, I'm putting a kid in the delayed entry program that's doing 0 pull-ups. Is he a high school senior? Kind of like took it as an approach of, how long will this kid have in the depth for my recruiter to actually develop him and get him physically ready for boot camp? So if you're putting a grad, somebody that was out of high school, that you're trying to ship in a month doing 0 pull-ups, it ain't happening. Like, look, we got to look at it as a realistic goal, right? But if you're putting somebody that you're not trying to ship till 6 months from now, like, as long as they're gonna be automatically enlisted. So if they make it through MEPS and everything like that, but when they swear in, they're automatically an at-risk poolee and they're being tracked by hire. So that way they can see the progress of this kid. So he's coming in every month at the RS level doing the IST. That was just something that was in place, and I actually thought that was a really good thing. So again, it's kind of like up to that particular command. There are people out there that have common sense for these things. There's commands though that just don't want to deal with it, and they're like, nah, you know what? Fuck at risk. Like, you need to have kids that are already ready. You're putting trash into a pool, and I wouldn't agree with that. Like Josh is saying, there are some great kids that went down there and they made it. They weren't physical studs, but they had the mental fortitude. And like, while we're on the subject, like, one of my most frustrating discharges from MCRD was as a boss at my last office. This kid, like, when you see him, is what you picture a Marine. He got the look. Was a high school senior. So he was in my debt for a year. He, like, kid was a stud, was doing like 25 pull-ups, over 100 crunches, could run for days. I gave him a leadership position early on. He took it, he killed it. He yelled at squad leaders, like the stuff that drill instructors are like, yeah, you're gonna be honor grad type shit. And man, this fucking kid goes down there. It's not even down there 2 weeks, just quits. And like, to this day, I sit here and try to think about it, and I'm like, what the fuck happened? Like, we went through the year the big RS pool function. He's seen drill instructors. He does all this, but it's kind of like what I talked about the last episode. We can only do so much, but we can't replicate that environment, man. That fight or flight kicking in, right? And some kids, you just don't know how they're gonna react until they're actually in the shit. And unfortunately, sometimes that stud-looking kid ain't it. But that McDonald's for two kid will surprise the fuck out of you, right, Josh?
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually have a couple questions. I'm gonna throw like all right, I guess the three of us are gonna take some turns just to kind of pick your brain a little bit. Because I mean, our audience, we have people that are interested in enlisting. And we're very familiar on the process of all of that, but our experience as far as the depot goes is we've each been a recruit. so it'd be interesting kind of to get your opinion. So we'll take some turns throwing some questions your way to see your response. And then if you want to do vice versa and kind of understand like some recruiter mentality type stuff, we'll get into that afterwards. But one question that I have is, what is your expectation of a kid upon their arrival at the depot? Like, is there something specific you're looking for in these brand new recruits that, like, I don't know, like you see a recruit and you're like, yep, the recruiters did it right this time, or damn, like a kid from Syracuse again, or like, what is your basic expectation of these brand new kids?
Awesome question. So my basic just expectation straight off the bat is, do they do what they're told, right? And in a fast and efficient manner. Um, Again, I'm not expecting them to be PT studs. I'm not expecting them to be, freaking GI Joes, right?
Mhm.
I'm just expecting them to, hey, if I'm giving you a task, are you willing to die for it, right? That's my basic expectation. Like, if he can do that, if I tell him, hey, go run that way, and he runs at 100 miles an hour that way, and he just keeps going.
Yep.
That's my expectation of that recruit. Just being
Okay.
humble, just being that one guy that listens and that gets the task done. That's it.
Simple as that. So you heard it here first, people. If you're trying to go to boot camp, trying to become a United States Marine, all you got to do is listen. Take an order, receive an order, do what's expected. Ant, you got any question for him?
Yeah. So my question is, like, my understanding is that obviously, besides my boot camp experiences, you are actually trying to weed them out. That's what we say. Like, boot camp is meant to like weed out the people that can't conform to Marine Corps standards. So, like, are you not trying to make people quit? The people that you see that are weak, that are not really grasping it, that you got to spend that extra time with. Like, are you not trying to, like, I'm gonna be on your ass, I'm gonna make you do this extra PTs, I'm gonna make you do the stupid stuff because I want you to quit? Are you not trying to do that, or are you really trying to help them?
So when it comes to weeding out, right? I think there's a misunderstanding when we say weed out. We say weed out the weakest, right? But that's really not what we mean by that. And let me explain to you what we mean by that. What we mean by that, right, are the ones that are either not conforming with whatever the environment is, right? Because just think about it. The kids get there and the kids don't know what they're doing, right? And some of them, for some reason, don't move fast or don't move to the expectations of what the drone server is telling them. Um, but it just depends on the attrition rate of every battalion, right? So, and then every company has an attrition rate. So, like Delta Company, our attrition rate varies, and there's no such thing as like, oh, we got to get 100%. Everybody that sucks. Maybe back in the days, back in the early 2000 and 2010s and so on. But when it comes to weeding out, it's just a simple as like, okay, is this kid like not doing what he's told? And if he does doing what he's told, is he not improving? Right? Is he getting worse or is he getting better? Um, and then again, it comes out to weeding out by who has the balls to say I'm doing the right thing when no one's watching. I'm doing if you come in failing the IST and you get 0 pull-ups, can you at least get freaking 3 by the end of first phase, or can you get more, not just 3 but more? Can you improve your runtime? Are you faking your injuries, right? Are you not doing the most of it when you're with your own time, square weight time? That means white space. So there's a square weight time, that an hour at night that the senior drone server gives you, right? And it's just for you squaring away your stuff. Typically, the recruits use it for working out or for uniforms, square away, right? But it just depends on the one that's running the team, right? Because you can have a team where the senior drone server goes like, well, I want the best, right? I'm gonna tell you right now, golf company was pretty big for sending kids away for failing the IST. If they saw that they failed the ISD, they will send them away, and that's why they always got like the best platoons over there at Gulf Company, because they said, fuck that kid, we don't want that kid, get him to another company. But at least for Delta Company, we took pride in every kid, and we said, you know what, we're gonna take this kid and we're gonna make him the best version of himself.
Hell yeah, Dirty D, baby, first battalion. That was me
Yep.
too.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Honestly, man, not even from the recruiting aspect of things, just as a man, as a Marine, it kind of pisses me off. But the what you said about Golf Company, right? It's like you're trying to chase all these accolades and like, hold a higher standard than what's already in place, because you only want these specific kids. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, is you enter Paris Island, what does it say? We make Marines. I
Exactly.
mean, I guess you're kind of meeting that standard, right? But to me, it's more impressive when I hear somebody like you actually take forward a challenge. If anything, I would commend you more for taking the kids that nobody wanted and molding them and actually showing them that they too are worth something and they can make it. I mean, I think that's harder to do than just take kids that are already physically in shape and having them go through and everything like that. If I was a recruiter and I heard that and I know my kid's on track to ship to Golf Company, he's a weak eyes here, I'm telling you right now, I'll move that ship date.
Yeah. And I got something to add. I mean, it just comes down to the drone search screed, right? So you got this drone search screed that says these recruits are entrusted in my care. I will train them to the best of my abilities. And then it just goes on to saying like I would conduct myself in a professional manner, something along those lines. I can't remember the whole thing, but I remember those first two lines. And if you can remember those first two lines, you can just embody that, and you can say like I'm gonna make something out of nothing, and that is really what it comes down to. Recruiting and drone sir is an opportunity to become a United States Marine. That's what you want to give these kids.
And on the other side of that coin, as a recruiter, it's hard if you're a recruiter watching this. I know it's hard out there, like having that mission monkey on your back and constantly being berated about appointments and phone calls and AC contacts and all these things. But it's easy to forget about that kid you've already got in your pool, right? Don't, because that kid made a commitment to you, so you owe it to that kid to give him the best preparation possible so that when they get to somebody like Josh, they're set up to be successful. Will it be easy? No. But I think a lot of scenarios too, it's naturally with the recruiting mission just being what it is. It's like kind of like a transaction, right? You scan and forget. That happens sometimes. I'm not saying it happens all the time, but that happens where a kid gets enlisted. He's kind of like in the program. The kid is self-motivated, whatever. He does what he thinks he needs to do to get ready. He just knows he wants to be a Marine, and he'll get down there, and he's really not. So that's where like it makes it a little bit more challenging for the drill instructors. And that's also not right. Like we need to make sure we're doing everything on our end to set these kids up to be successful.
So accurate, and because that's like not just a boot camp or a recruiter thing, like that's a basic marinism, like that's a leadership thing right there. And I mean, working in the S1 admin, I oftentimes work with like young officers. I have to mentor them, like a lot of times, like this is their first time in the fleet and they've never worked with enlisted personnel before. And a lot of them, I mean, coming from the wing side, like they're pilots first and foremost. They don't know anything about naval correspondence or NJPs or anything. So everything that they end up learning is coming through me or one of my clerks, one of my junior Marines. And I can just remember, like off the top of my head, in my last squadron, that the officer got it wasn't one of the youngest officers, because typically I'm having like a butter bar, a lieutenant, but the lieutenant left and I end up getting a captain because the captain was struggling as a pilot. So it was like a lot of, I don't want to say basic things, but a lot of the things that pertain specifically to his job, he was struggling at. So he's kind of trying to juggle, how do I learn how to be a better pilot? You know, I still am getting pressure from all the admin stuff. And I basically told him, like, don't worry, sir. Like, I got you. I'm going to teach you exactly what you need to do to make sure that you're getting a pat on the back from the CO and not a slap upside the back of the head. And we're grinding. And it would be something simple where one of my Marines is going through a reenlistment process and they're trying to fill out their realm and whatnot. And they need comments from the staff NCOIC and the OIC and all of this. And I fill out my comments for the Marine, send it back to the Marine, and they send it to the officer and CC me on the email. And the officer's initial response was, what's the deadline on this? And for me, I'm like, this Marine is the one keeping you afloat. They work their butt off day in, day out for you. Like, for you to make it, and maybe he didn't probably mean it this way, and maybe the Marine didn't take it this way. But I think that the best example of a leader is, amongst all these things that we have going on, it's once every 4 years that the Marine needs to ask me about a reenlistment. Those things are going to get set to the side. I'm going to focus, make sure my Marine is set up for success. And I think that that's almost the same exact thing that we're trying to say here. You know, you have duties as a drill instructor. We have duties as recruiters. Like, when they sign the dotted line, we acknowledge that we are going to prepare them, because that's what the delayed entry program is for in the first place. So I just want to kind of throw that out there, because I think that it relates in a whole Marine Corps aspect, not just drill instructor, not just recruiter. But I do have one more question for you, Josh, before we let you throw some questions our way. Drill instructor school. What's that like? Does the average Marine make it through? And I mean, I've basically heard it's just like going through boot camp all over again. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because we also have Marines that are probably looking at getting sent on SDAs sometime soon. The HIST is right around the corner, by the way, if y'all did not know that. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Yeah.
So drill instructor school is it's going to be the easiest thing that you're, far from the actual trenches. There's nothing like being in the actual company. When you get thrown out there, and I thought I was hot shit, right? Because I got meritorious corporal, I got meritorious sergeant. I'm about to fuck. I'm that guy. I'm like, yeah, hey, ain't nobody gonna stop me. I'm gonna go run around circles around these other students. Like, I got it, right?
Yep.
But that wasn't the case. You get humbled real quick, and you learn real quick that that's not you. Nobody is. You're not above anybody. You're on the same skill as everybody else. But the instructors themselves, they're going to just teach you. They're going to treat you like recruits again, 2.0, like recruiting, like going to boot camp again, right? 2.0, and you get thrown a lot of knowledge, teach backs, which I didn't struggle with because I stood in front of the mirror and I practiced, teach backs. You get a lot of tests, and it's nothing like you get an observation or two to go in a company and like wear, your 8-point cover with a belt, but it's nothing like, because you get a rest after. You do it for like 2 days, 3 days, and then after you're just like, all right, I'm gonna rest. So it's nothing like the actual trenches. You really don't get as much exposure as you should. It's fairly easy. I'm telling you, like it's fairly easy. The only thing that really got students was whenever they got there, right? You got your sergeants and your corporals, sergeant selects, right? That they have their fleetisms, right? And what I mean by that, like for me, I got in trouble because I was saluting, but I was running at the same time. double time, right? So,
Yep.
I was like, trying to hurry up, do what I'm told, and I'm running, and I see an officer, and I just salute, and I still run. And the mass sergeant stopped me. He's like, "What are you doing?" I got blasted right there, and I got blasted a couple times for doing simple things that you would do in the fleet.
Yeah.
But because
Yeah.
nobody tells you, like nobody ever holds you accountable and says like, "That's not right," or they pull the orders and say like, "Yeah, you're violating that order." That you're gonna get hemmed up. Hands in pockets, you're gonna get hemmed up. Not having a cover outside, little things that people in the fleet don't care for, you're gonna
Mhm.
get hemmed up in there. Uh, and so that was a shock itself. Just like, wait a minute, I was doing so good in the fleet. Why am I getting? Well, there's a reason for everything. Like I never understood it. I thought that the instructors hated me, but there's a reason for everything. You're doing it because you essentially gonna fill the shoes of the drone instructor, and every recruit is gonna be looking at you. You're gonna be the first Marine that they ever encounter, or the second Marine because the first Marine is a recruiter, but the first Marine they ever encounter once they join the service.
Yeah.
And so they're gonna be okay. I want to emulate him, boom. And so that's my piece on DI school. I did still get gun hole because I'm motivated and I still got it after it, but
Hell yeah.
that's it. That's just for the birds.
Josh, does the drill instructor Froggy voice, is that standard issue or that comes with time?
That's not a thing. Listen, the frog voice is for lazy drone instructors, like the ones that you open your mouth. No, that's just because they're being lazy and they don't want to scream from the diaphragm. Maybe
Yeah.
they're exhausted, maybe they're just having a bad day. But doing that frog voice, that will piss me off so bad because they think they sound cool, but other drone instructors will look at him like, "What are you doing?" The recruits will be like,
Okay.
"Oh my god, he's so scary." No, 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 no. You gotta scream like you about to kill this motherfucker. Like if the recruit looks at your eyes and you're screaming with a frog voice, they're probably gonna chuckle a little bit, like that's funny, right? But if I'm looking at the recruit's eyes and I'm screaming at the top of my lungs, it should feel like he's getting punched in the chest. Like I
Yep.
should be able to
Yeah.
scream him and over him, right? That's how you do it. You don't do it. You don't do the frog voice. That's the lazy way of addressing things.
Okay, so basically you're telling me my drill instructors were lazy. Okay.
Hey,
Right out of Delta too.
I
Wild.
know. I
yeah. I
know.
mean, sometimes it comes out naturally, but because your voice is so exhausted, and sometimes your voice will be gone, and those that happens a lot to brand new drone instructors, like the fourth hat and the third hat. But as an EDI or a senior, your voice should be always like if you're gonna blast a kid, you should be blasting the whole like one kid should be blast. It should sound like you're blasting a whole platoon.
Yeah, I can attest to like senior drill instructors definitely for whatever reason always being the loudest. Like if you're getting blasted by a senior, people knew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It always went from the senior being like the soft spoken one to flip of the switch like, oh shit, we didn't say "I sir" loud enough. He went from just speaking to us to screaming like, "Oh man, we disappointed him. Integrity."
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
my senior man, his I mean, I think he's out now. I don't care saying his name. At the time, it was a Staff Sergeant Payne, Payne, and he had this saying that says, "Through pain comes discipline." And like, man, I'm telling you, like, he would come up to us and we're platoon 1024. He's like, "Listen to me, 24. You want me to go back to my green belt days?" And like, he'll just have us in there in the front leaning pose talking about through pain comes discipline or planks. Oh man, it was intense when that guy
That
got
was still a thing in First Battalion. Like we have, through pain comes discipline. Ready, move, right? Hey,
Yep.
when I tell you to, you're gonna put your shoe displays on your foot locker. Ready, through pain, move comes discipline. That's a first battalion thing.
Okay, cool.
In third battalion, they say spirit and discipline. So they say
Ah,
spirit,
yeah,
discipline,
I didn't
right?
know that. That's dope.
And I think
Yep.
second battalion says pain as well.
I do have one follow-on question to like your last answer about drill instructor school. Is there anything that a young Marine that just got histed and is about to go to drill instructor school, is there anything that they should do their best to prepare for? Obviously, you should be in good shape. I would assume learn some as much Marine Corps knowledge as they can. But is there anything that they should have prepared before showing up, or they just show up and are expected to learn?
Yes, and this is something that I was gonna say whenever you were asking me the previous question about
Mhm.
the ones that get dropped, the DI school students that get dropped, and it's mostly because of their command. Their command uh, not intentionally fucks them over, but you got those sergeants that hook each other up, right?
Mhm.
For the PFT. Hey,
Yep.
Mhm.
write me these numbers down, right? Hey, I run a first class, right? I run wink, wink, wink. I run a first class, right?
And
Yeah, right. Uh,
I'm good. I don't do
but
that.
then, but
Exactly. He
then,
doesn't do that.
but then, like these guys are young. They don't understand. Like they are gonna go over to the DI school and they're gonna be evaluated closely with the right form and everything. So if you're just lying and saying on your NAVMAC that you're running a first class, but then you go over there and you don't run a first class, guess what? You're getting fucking sent back. You
yep.
know how embarrassing that would be? Like if oh
Very.
yeah, I'm going to drill sergeant school. Your command gets in, motivated. Yeah, hell yeah, hell yeah. Hey, we're gonna make a formation for this guy. They make a formation. Everybody in your shop, your lance corporals, your corporals are like, yeah, 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 yeah. But he kind of looks kind of chubby. I mean, I'm guessing he's really, really good shape. But, he's a monster. He's a beast. Some type of different breed. But then he gets out there and he can't pass tape, or he
Yep.
can't pass, he can't pass the weight. And they're like, fuck, hey sergeant, how the fuck do you not pass tape? You're gonna go fucking back, right? Because the instructors don't care.
Yeah.
They're gonna yell at you. They're gonna yell at you like a recruit. How the fuck a sergeant of the Marines cannot pass weight? Get the fuck out of here. They pack your shit, you pack your shit, but and they send you back. You know how embarrassing that is? So don't lie. Don't lie about,
There it
oh
is.
yeah, I got a buddy here that's gonna hook me up in the NAVMAC. Fuck that. Do it the right way. Get in
Yep.
shape. Get it as much, and even if you already are in shape, get as much more in shape as possible. And I'm not talking about going to the gym, lifting heavy ass weights, because that's not gonna help you.
Right.
I'm telling you about cardio. Like hit the pavement, run, get on that thermal machine or whatever it's called, uh, and do pull-ups. You do your planks. Do the Marine Corps stuff, not your I'm gonna get in shape through the gym and
Yep.
lifting heavy weights. Because and Marine Corps honestly does not care how much you deadlift, and they don't care how much you
Nope.
bench. They don't care how much you squat. They care about your run time, your pull-ups, and your planks. Just as sucky as it is, I hate that shit. I do hate it, but you still need to
Yep.
do it because there's a mission. You need to have a greater purpose of why you're doing this. Oh, I'm doing it because it looks cool because I want to have that Smokey Bear campaign cover. No, brother, you're doing it because you're gonna make eventually the future of the Marine Corps. You're gonna find your replacement. You're gonna find, you're gonna do it for the opportunity that these kids, the civilians, are seeking. And that's people don't understand that. They just want to do it because it looks cool and it looks, oh yeah, yeah, I want to do it. I'm gonna look hot in it,
Yep.
whatever. And then they failed. So um, just be prepared to iron your uniforms, like stay up late, uh, ensure that you're in the best physical shape as possible, and start practicing with your platoon marching. Like that's just do the basic things that the Marine Corps, and then find a mentor that was already a drone instructor, right? Find a mentor and get under the wing, even if it doesn't belong to your section. Pick his brain. Hey, what did you
Yep.
learn? What you learn from here? All right, well, maybe I can learn some sword manual. Maybe I can learn some marching. Maybe I can learn some, you know, some how to get better at fitness or whatever.
Hey, I appreciate the deep dive into all of that. Yeah, I'm sure there's people out here that are going to find that beneficial. I mean, yeah, when I went to recruiting school, like I never heard of any of the horror stories or anything like that. I just went there with a smile on my face and got woke up real quick. But yeah, what kind of questions do you have for us? You got any questions for us that you want some clarification on or anything?
I do, and maybe this is more driven towards just us, right? And the audience too.
Yeah.
I noticed that it happens, right? And I don't know why it happens. There's Marines that don't have a backbone and don't have essentially core values, right, or moral, or morals.
Mhm.
And for some reason, the recruiters end up having affairs with young police, and I don't know why it happens, but essentially, what I'm trying to say is it does happen in the depot as well. The depot is much worse than what you think. It
Really?
happens. Uh, you would think that there's some type of, you see all these E9s, right, and all these E8s. You put them on a pedestal, and the next thing you know, they're getting relieved, or you find out some rumors that they're sleeping around with hats. Um, and it pisses me off to my fucking core. I fucking hate that shit. I hate it, and it's always a rumor. It's always a rumor, especially because we are, you know, getting more integrated platoons. Right? We have
Mhm.
females and we have males. The nature of this job, like we get so much stress, right? Especially in recruiting, right? And drone shooter. The only cope, the only things that we can cope with are alcohol because they're de-stressors, right? And
Mhm.
sex. And I'm
Yep.
just putting it out there. Hey,
Yeah.
I'm just putting it out there.
You're not wrong.
Like, you want to, de-stress. You don't have time to work out and go to the gym. Guess what? A cup of alcohol and a round of fucking, right? I'm just gonna say that.
Yeah.
Um, but
Well,
it does happen. I want to know why. Why it does happen, and what are the trends? How can we inform the audience, and to look out for that?
I mean, honestly, well, I think when it comes to that, like it's like you said, Josh, like you just gotta have some damn fucking standards and morals in life. Like, I get it, you know what I mean? Like recruiting is so damn time consuming. Like, in order for me to be a successful recruiter, I pretty much had to put my wife and my kids in the background. Like, let me leave, breathe, shit, sleep, recruiting to be somewhat successful at it. And so you get lonely, you know what I mean? Like you want that touch, but have some damn morals. Like, yes, I would find, some women that were like, man, they're pretty, but the moment I actually tried, like, hey, are you interested in Marines? It clicked. Like, no, like I don't see him like that. Like, this is a person that I'm either gonna put into the Marine Corps or disqualify him, put into the Marine Corps, and that's it. Like, it happens, yeah. You know what I mean? Like, we personally, us three, we had a Marine in the shop that ended up, being relieved for doing some stuff like that. But you just gotta have more. You gotta be able to stand your ground. Like, I was never one to do that because I chose the opposite route. Instead of trying to find some other woman to give me what my wife was willing to give me, I just didn't have time to get that from her. I just went and drank, honestly. Like, I'm not saying that's great because I drink a lot. But you gotta honestly just have some damn more. Stand your freaking ground. Like, hey, I came in here married. I want to leave married. Like you said, you want to leave with your rank, your ribbon, and your ring. You know what I mean? And that's what I try to do. I know all of us in the office, that's what we try to do. I mean, you have those onesies and twosies that take it a step further. But then you realize, and I think that's the biggest thing, you realize when you see someone that does that or hear about someone that does it, how devastating it is to us as recruiters. You know what I mean? Because that spreads, like you said, like fast. You know what I mean? Oh, he's this recruiter's talking to these police and having inappropriate relations. Now everybody's getting looked at like, is he doing it? Is he doing it? Is he doing it? And then especially if it's a student at a school, oh my gosh, now all of a sudden we can't even go to schools. And so now my worker that was giving me my prior one, that was giving me all my contracts, now I can't go in there because recruiters are, sleeping around with high school students. Like, it is so freaking devastating. So you just really got to have some morals, have some standards that you are not willing to compromise, and it'll be fine. Like I said, like I was able to talk to Lou and freaking Dom about things to get out of my chest, to help me, make me feel better, to give me that kind of love that I needed from, obviously I wanted from my wife. And I need a friend. Let me talk to you about this. Or, hey Lou, this is where I'm going on. Let me talk to you about this. And they're able to keep my spirits up. It's just really, man, just have some damn standards, like you said. Have some morals. Don't compromise. It's not worth your career. 5 minutes of fun ain't worth your fucking career, honestly.
Yep. And then the 5 minutes, give him the 5 minutes to go home with his wife. That man came back with like 3 contracts the next day.
Facts.
So with the relief piece, right? I think, and you hit the nail on the head as far as the not compromising the morals and everything like that. But I know there's, as Marines, we think of ourselves as like, top dogs, alpha male. And I mean, in a lot of scenarios we are, right? And we joke a lot. We have a dark sense of humor. Like, I'd be in recruiting duty and people will be like, yeah, she either wants to be a Marine or wants a Marine in her. These are shit that Marines are saying. And at the end of the day, man, you have to, like, know how to conduct yourself in a professional manner behind closed doors. A lot of people joked around, and in this case, there was a Marine that was part of that joking around, but he was actually out there doing these things. And it to me it was shocking, because you hear about it, but to be directly a part of a scenario where that was happening, and then having these young women come forward and give the allegations in detail as to what was happening. And I'm in the background feeling like a fool because this dude's telling me he's doing these one things, and telling his wife he's doing another thing. And then, I mean, time management was great for him, but he was just misusing it. Uh, but it's not just with the police, it happens amongst command group members. When I was coming on a recruiting duty, I was trying to go somewhere, and you do a by name request, and I couldn't get a response from the sergeant major to the place I was trying to go because that guy was getting relief for having an inappropriate relationship with like an admin chief or something like that.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of times it just stems to like what Aaron was talking about with your morals, your background, and at the end, yeah, we're men and women, right? But you stand for something else, even if you're single, man. Like, single Marines can still get in trouble for having an inappropriate relationship with a school staff, right? You would think like, okay, they're an adult, this and that. If you met them in a work capacity, that's my rule for y'all out there. If you were wearing a uniform and you met them out while conducting Marine Corps business, no go, don't do it.
Yeah.
Because it's somebody interprets that as an inappropriate relationship. That's your 4, 5, 6 years in the Marine Corps. Bye bye. Like, it's the easiest way out, and it's not worth it. Like, you put in all this work to get to where you're at this point in your career. Why are you gonna jeopardize it over a piece of, like, bruh?
The simple answer is, if they are qualified to enlist, they're off limits first and foremost. Meaning that we would need to disqualify them. Knowing what we know about recruiting, I'll say it, there's a lot of fraud that happens. We do a lot of things to get these kids into the military. I'm personally a firm believer that there's no such thing as a 100% qualified applicant. Everybody's got some sort of past. Everybody's gone to the doctor for something. It is what it is, right? So if we are about to put anybody into the Marine Corps that is qualified, it's really hard to disqualify somebody. That's my thought on it. But the big picture is, you got people, going and doing things at schools, obviously that's not just a military thing. Like that's a human thing. Like, where is your morality when it comes to that? And how do we really get to this point? But ultimately, as far as recruiters go, obviously you're wrong for doing that. But you're doing far more than just ruining your career. Like, you're going to get kicked out. That's going to hurt the office because we're still going to be on for the same amount of contracts. But we just lost a recruiter who would be writing those contracts. Also, you just tarnished your name in the community. So like they were like, you might lose access to the school. You might end up on the news, right? Now, just because you were the one that, or this person was the one who went out there and did it, we're still expected to work in that community. And now we're showing up on the news, ruining our name. Like, not, then that might not even just be for the Marine Corps. That could be for the whole military. So, I mean, realistically, like, just act like a professional. It's really simple as that. You know, there's many ways to go out there and de-stress. But you know, there's personal and there's business. And, you know, as Marines, we're expected to be professionals. Yeah, I mean, I've seen some things happen, and you know, it's really unfortunate. And I'm not just seeing things, but I've heard of things. And yeah, I mean, it's an unfortunate thing. It's not just something that's limited to recruiting duty, but I mean, between recruiters and drill instructors, a lot of times we're the ones that are showing up on TVs or news outlets or on Google, because I mean, we walk around in blues all the damn time trying to get exposures. You guys are the ones training people. You got the look, the campaign, or the Smokey Bear, and you know, you got that image that we want to project to America and the rest of the world. But as soon as a Marine messes up, boom, we just all look bad. So yeah, I mean, yeah, it's definitely something that needs to get addressed. It's not just the recruiters, it's not just the drill instructors, and it's not just Marines. Like, that's a problem, you know, amongst the military. But when we go out there and do something, it's not, you know, Sergeant Jones, Staff Sergeant Jones did this. It's United States Marine of this area did it. So yeah, just be a professional. Simple as that.
Yeah, so I mean, Ant mentioned the three R's, right? The ring, the ribbon, and the rank. We're keeping all of those, right? It's the same for drill instructor duty. It goes the same. They also harp on the three R's. However, a lot of people don't understand how demanding these jobs are, how demanding the SDA it is. And when it comes to demand, it's all about time, right? It's time consuming. Is you staying at work weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And you know, some people that are, or some Marines that are in the fleet life in a regular job from, you know, 08 to 1630 or 1700, they really like, yeah, I got it, because I dominated the fleet. I'm gonna dominate SDAs. Yeah. I'm a good guy. I'm getting rewarded. I'm doing all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
But they really understand how much demand goes into this SDAs. Now, keep in mind, they have a supporting system, whether it's their family, their spouse, you know, their kids, right? Now, some people, some wives, right, are not the best at supporting those individuals when it comes to when they're SDA, right? My question is, how did you manage, if you were married or if you were not married, right? How did you manage to keep that support system afloat? Because let me tell you right now, a lot of these dependents suck.
Yep.
I'm just straightforward.
I'm with you.
They suck. They don't, you know, I'm gonna tell you after you answer my question, I'm gonna tell you my story, and you know, hopefully you can answer my question.
You're right. You know, the goal is to make it out there with the three R's: the ring, the ribbon, and the rank. And the unfortunate truth is the majority of recruiters don't make it out. And whether they got in trouble for something and they lost their rank, they got a good of service or relief for cause, they lost the ribbon, or a lot of people lose the ring. And it's not always because they're out there doing dirt, you know. Just like you mentioned, it's not always a great support system. So by the time I left that duty, although recruiting duty taught me so many skills that I was able to apply when I came out, that I was able to apply when I came back to the fleet. I think that what I learned from recruiting was how to become a better leader, how to manage an office, because like you said, like an SDA is completely different, but as a staff NCO, as a staff NCOIC out there on an SDA, you're juggling so many things. It's impossible to complete every task. You learn what you can drop for now and accomplish these other things and delegate here. I think that it taught me a lot of things. But having left the duty and looking back, there are so many things that I regret. And like I'm proud of how hard I went out there and worked. I was a successful canvassing recruiter. I struggled as a staff NCOIC, but you know, I just didn't feel like I was like well prepared for that position. I kind of got pushed into it, and I didn't receive the proper training to do it. But it wasn't because the Marines didn't like respect me, but I struggled out there, and this is the first time in my whole career that I struggled. You know, I was definitely above average Marine. And so I get to the point where I'm struggling professionally and I'm spending more hours out there. I'm spending more hours as a staff NCOIC than I did as a canvassing recruiter. And my family is struggling because of that. And, you know, my ex-wife, my ex-wife now, who was my current wife on recruiting duty, she was a Marine. She got out as I came to the duty. She just did one enlistment and got out. I'm thinking she's got the Marine mentality. She understands that I'm just gonna push through. You know, my goal is to be successful out here and get meritoriously promoted. And yeah, she understands I'm coming home late and I'm coming home tired. And even though I got 2 kids at home, like she gets it. And things are rough, but once we make it off the duty, it'll get all better. Well, the unfortunate truth is we never actually discussed that. I just assumed because she had the background of being a Marine, but she had never been on an SDA. She didn't know what I was doing. Like we get to the point out there where we're so exhausted at the end of the day to just be like told like, hey guys, you can go ahead and wrap up. You can go home for the day. Okay. I take my recruiter hat off. I'm not ready to put on my family man hat and assume those responsibilities. You know, sometimes I just want to sit there in the office. Sometimes I want to go and grab a beer and just and it could be with the guys and it could literally just be by myself. Like, and I never communicated those things. As recruiters, we're supposed to be the best communicators. Well, yeah, I mean, those are things that I should have done. And I just assumed that she got it. And, you know, she felt completely left alone out there because I'm trying to do everything I can to provide more for our family. And yeah, you know, my marriage didn't work out. Out there, and I take responsibility for that. I also give some responsibility for that. But yeah, I mean, I would definitely say there is certainly some sort of medium out there. It might not be equal, but there's a medium that you should be able that you should strive to find, where you're supporting your family as you should, and you're doing what you need to at work. And sometimes, like, yes, it might come up a little bit, and sometimes it's going to go like that a little bit. But I definitely recommend that to any of the viewers, if you're coming out to one of these duties, that you try your best every single day to find that balance. Make sure that you're communicating with your supporting cast, whether that's at work or if that's at home. And you'll be able to leave the duty with the 3 R's if you're doing those things. And you're communicating effectively, because if you're just communicating one way, you ain't gonna leave with the 3 R's. But yeah, that's my answer. I don't know if anybody else has anything on it.
So I also, you know, was somebody in that same boat and actually went through a lot of the same things Dom went through at the same exact time. Fast forward, move on to a different recruiting substation. As a recruiter and as a station commander at my first station, I really never faced failure. Like, sure, there were difficult times. There were months that were a little bit more rough than others, but we always made mission. We were a great office. So I think with that success came perks, things that allowed me time home and do things, take leave, all that stuff, right? So I never really had issues on the back end, and then I make it through my 3 years and decide to keep going on this rigorous duty. And when I go to my next station, it's a place that hadn't been successful in many, many years, and I wanted to be the guy to like make it work. So I literally there were at this point, my ex-wife, at that time we were still married. She was going through kind of like OCS for officers, but it's more like a gentleman's course because of her specific specialty. I'm not gonna get into what she does. But she was transitioning into a different branch of the military and everything, and she was in training. So, between her schooling, how busy she was, I tried to request to my command to send me somewhere where we can be closer. And they were like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna send you here, a place that was still over the mileage that we're supposed to be apart, right?" And me being, at this point still a young staff NCO, I'm just like, Roger that, needs of the Marine Corps, I'm gonna do whatever y'all tell me. And I went to this really struggling station, and it sucked, but it sucked for the wrong reason. It sucked because I couldn't spend time with my significant other. We never talked, we never did anything. And then by the time that I actually get my station going in the direction that I needed to be going, or started to get the station trending in the right direction, everything just kind of falls apart on that relationship. So it affected the performance aspect of things, right? And I bring this up because a lot of times as leaders, especially in the command, right, we forget, we're quick to forget that these Marines have families, and we don't give a shit about anything other than our mission, because that's how my career is made. And we need to be able to wear all the different hats. We don't need to be just out there worrying about the CO's mission. We need to be worried about the well-being of those Marines, what's going on the home end. Do they need time off? To handle the business they need to handle? Do you need to allow them time to seek counseling, things of that nature? Those are hard conversations to have because, we're big bad Marines. Well, you don't need to do that. Like, no, you're still a human being, man. You still have stressors. And if anything, as a drill instructor and recruiter, you got stressors that you've never dealt with in your life. And a lot of times some people don't know how to handle it. I was fortunate that, like, as I'm going through all these tough times, I got people like Dom that I can, talk to. And heck, I was when it's all said and done, I was able to take some leave and come up and visit them. And that kind of helped me finish out my time in the Marines. But that's a a factor as to why I decided to get out, because I felt like nobody in that duty specifically, nobody gave a shit about me or anything that I go through, uh, unless I'm performing at a peak level. And I went, fast forward, I went over, took over at MEPS, and I'm doing great. But I'm seeing other Marines get treated the way I was treated. That didn't sit well with me. And I would start voicing things and trying to be a person that can cause change, and no change is happening. And that's when I was like, I don't need to be a part of this. And I just want to be clear, this is not the Marine Corps. This is particular commands. Unfortunately, the leadership in these commands, that's just how things worked. The entire Marine Corps is not like that. But you know, I'll put it out there for if anybody at a leadership position is watching, or you know, somebody that would eventually get to these positions. Don't forget about the families. Don't forget about these Marines and their families and what they got going on the back end, because it's not all about the work.
You and Lou, Dom, and what y'all said is really you got to communicate. You have to develop that support system, because I was one of the few that, well, I say few, I know at least in our RSS, that actually left the duty with my ring. It was hard. I didn't think it was. It got to a point where you got to talk. Honestly, you got to talk. And you got to have great leadership around you, because it got so bad that I put my wife and family behind me to put my career recruiting in front of them. Then my wife's like, "Hey, I'm gonna just go visit family. I don't know when I'm gonna be back." And I actually came to you, Dom. I know you remember. Like, I broke down. I was like, "Bro, like my wife just left me. Like, I don't know what to do." And I know put you in a difficult situation, because I wasn't doing the best at recruiting and stuff like that. So you're trying to push me like, "No, dog. Like, you want to be happy. Fucking put bodies in." But at the same time, you're going through your own shit. You know what I mean? You're like, nah. Unfortunately, sometimes it takes a person like you that's going through that, where your wife is leaving you and you don't want that, but hey, you don't want that for me. So you're like, hey, take some time off. You know what I mean? So you have to develop that. You got to talk. You know what I mean? Like, as Marines, we think we just got to eat our emotions, our feelings, and shit like that. Just talk. Even when my wife finally decided to come back, like, I just sat down and talked to her. And for a while, I was like, hey, I'm gonna put my wife and my family over the freaking duty, whether I'm successful or not. Like, if I get kicked out the Marine Corps, whatever, I want my wife. I want my wife and my kids. So it also takes a special, person that you're spending your life with to understand, like, hey, this shit's just temporary. And once I was able to talk to her and like, hey, I'm not trying to put you, beneath me. I'm just trying to be successful for us. But I understand my downfalls, and I'm gonna work on it. But at the same time, I'm gonna have to put some effort into my duty, because as much as Lou and Dom are trying to give me that time off, like, they can't just, hey, take all the time you want. Like, fuck, if you're making mission or not, hey, make the mission, put some bodies in, and I'll give you that free time too. So it's talking, it's developing that support system, so you're able to spend time with your family, you're able to keep that ring and stuff like that, but also to get off the duty successfully, to where it's not affecting your career, and you can go and continue to do great shit in the Marine Corps. But that's my 2 piece to it.
For me, as far as the three R's, I mean, I did get divorced immediately as soon as I hit the depot. And it's unfortunate because you never expected, but uh, the wife, right, was not supportive of me going and becoming a drill instructor. For whatever reason, she just, I don't care for this. And she wanted me to get out, and she didn't understand, like, well, this is what's providing for you and my kids. Like, these are the rising beings are coming to, there's a job that needs to be done. And the only reason why you have a household over your head and like your, food and all this stuff is because I'm providing, right?
Yep.
But she didn't want to, right? And it all happened like within the span of a year, right? Really months. I got my first cycle, right? My first super first cycle, right? And I was only trained day 13 or something like that. There was the allegations against me with a recruit. Supposed to say I put my hands on him, whatever. The allegation came back unsubstantiated. But while it was happening, while you're under investigation, there's so much going through your head. You're just thinking the worst. You're gonna lose your job. You're gonna lose your career. You're not gonna be able to provide for your family. Like, you're just losing hope at this point, and it really puts you in a bad mental place.
Yeah.
They send you home, and then you go in every day from 08 to 12, and you cut grass. You don't have to be there early, but they make you feel like shit, like you don't belong. Um,
Yep.
so it really put me in a bad place. Like, I was, running around circles in my house, like, just like going back and forth, like, what the fuck am I gonna do? So I told my ex-wife at the time, I need you here. And she was like, no, I'm not going out there. She was putting a bunch of excuses. And what really broke the camel's back is like, hey, that's not gonna work. I told her, like, if you're not gonna be able to support me while I'm here, then what am I doing? Because I'm just sending money there, plus I'm paying a house. And she really just wanted the freedom to like drink a Starbucks and and do whatever she wanted to do, right? And
Yeah.
that's understood. But what really broke the camel's back is when I called her and I told her, you know, all these things. She just wanted putting excuses out there like, oh, I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna go to Puerto Rico or whatever. And then she said, oh, I don't want to divorce you because I still want the medical benefits. And I was like, absolutely not. So I already knew that she was using me, right? She was using me.
Yeah.
And then, you know, some other things came about, like, oh, I want you to buy a house in Florida, but I don't want you, you know, to finish your duty. Like, it was a bunch of shit that came down, and I was like, yeah, I'm definitely done. And uh, you know, I went through that year by myself because she never lived in South Carolina, Paris Island, never. She moved her stuff there, but she never lived there. Um,
Hmm.
and then, you know, a year later, I met my current wife now, right? And I'm grateful for her because we understand each other, even though, you know, some people might be like, wait a minute, you know, what's going on there? Um, I got married, right, at the depot, like my last year, coming off the depot, but I found a person that understands me, that I can relate to, that really just appreciates me for who I am and as a person and as a Marine. And so I'm grateful for that. So technically, I did leave I did leave with 3 R's, right? Um, I do have a following question for the crowd, right? Uh, so again, we have drone sergeant duty and recruiting duty. Um, I'm not gonna say I was the greatest senior drone sergeant ever. That's not me, but I learned how to, because there's a science and there's an art to it, right?
Yeah.
That science is the orders that you read and how to do it, but then there's the art of how to actually get in the trenches and how to manipulate recruits. I call it manipulating because you're trying to convince them that, you know, this is gonna be the greatest thing on earth.
Yep.
Um, there's an art to it. How did you learn to manipulate? How did you get that down? Is it the same thing on recruiting? Is there an art and a science? Is there any way that you like, okay, well, first I got to learn the science and then I got to learn the art, or were you like a natural straight off the bat?
I do think that some people are successful in this duty because it comes natural to them. But I will tell you, in order to be successful, regardless of how you are as a person, there is a science and an art to it. And uh, you know, with recruiting school, you get very basic tools to help you and make you successful. So I'm not going to talk that on recruiting school because it definitely helped me and it gave me like a realistic expectation and especially in a lot of scenarios and when it came to public speaking and things of that nature. But what helps you be successful and like will uh help you keep the 3 R's and things like that. uh it'll be taking all the things you learn and then also being open to once you get somewhere to learning from those peers around you. First and foremost, as a brand new guy, I took a little bit from everybody in that office. And there are things that sometimes guys did that I didn't like, so I just left it or it didn't fit me. But you know, don't be a robot, be yourself, make everything that you learn, make it natural, be genuine as a person. Because at least for us, right, it's a lot of man to man, people to people interaction. So if you're coming off as genuine, if you're being genuine with somebody, it'll be more receptive than just kind of trying to be somebody you're not. People are just gonna look at you and be like, yeah, 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 yeah. Or like Tama Tonga, right? Yeah, nah, go away. But what it really what really helps us is having an understanding of what our job is. So your product knowledge, um, it was really, really eye-opening how much the Marine Corps has to offer. And that is a big part of it, because if you don't know your product that you're presenting, it'll definitely not help. It can turn some people off. So knowing your product knowledge, and so being what you preach, right? So like there's something that comes with leadership by example. I'm a firm believer in do as I do, not as I say. So practicing what we preach and being that embodiment for these kids. So like if I'm telling him like, these are these are the timelines we have, and this is how I'm gonna get you there. You're not going to be able to like come back 2 months later and be like, hey sir, we're supposed to go over jobs at the 2 month mark, and you're like, yeah, you dismiss it, you're gonna lose that kid. Because now you're not holding yourself to the standards that you kind of like set for him and yourself, right? So always, setting those standards, holding yourself accountable. And then with the Marine side and the home side, just kind of like we were over talking about communication. Just sometimes you think as a great communicator as you're supposed to be, you talk to people all day long. By the time you get home, the last thing you want to do is talk more, right? So I think it's just being selfless, more selfless in the sense of like, it's not just about me coming home and not talking because I don't want to. It's like I've been talking, but this person has been wanting to talk to me. So, you know, having being open to the open dialogue, things like that. And with your command, building that relationship and trust is going to be huge. If they trust you, they'll kind of leave you alone. But if they don't, you'll start getting micromanaged. And I think we can all agree nobody here likes getting micromanaged. Nobody likes being told by the numbers what to do, like if they were back at boot camp. So that's gonna be huge. And the quickest way to not get micromanaged is to earn their trust. You earn their trust by doing your job. And becoming good at your job is just taking everything you learned and making it your own.
Yeah, Ant love getting micromanaged.
Hey, but look, I will say this. You're 100% right. There is a science to it, and then there's an art to it. Because recruiting duty is very, very structured. I'm talking about, hey, here's my schedule, here's my SNR of what I'm doing for every freaking time out throughout the days and activities. But really, the streets are going to teach you, because I honestly say I didn't learn nothing at recruiting school. Like I thought I did, but I thought it was gonna be all fun and games and easy until you actually go to the actual streets, and the streets are gonna teach you 100%. That's where the art comes in, because I realized whenever I first came into recruiting duty, I had my head shaved and everything like that. I looked more mean and not inviting, so people were like not wanting to talk to me. I'm like, what's going on? Like I'm there with the smile, but also with the mean face at the same time. Like no one wanted to talk to me. I had to learn from my sector. I had to learn from the AO. Like, all right, I grew out my hair, smiled more. I started approaching people. And then I watched, kind of like Lou said, I watched what Lou was doing to be successful. I watched what Dom was doing to be successful. And then I kind of made it my own. There's so many activities to do. You kind of find your niche at which one you're really good at. Dom, like I tell you, it was like never out of the office. It was social media, social media, social media. Me, I was like, nah, I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna, walk up to you. You want to be a Marine? You look like a Marine. Like, let's talk about it, type of stuff. And that's what worked for me. So the streets were the biggest thing for me to be able to be successful. And being able to adapt to that AO, because I was in 3 different sectors throughout my whole recruiting tour. So I had to learn how to be different in every sector. And then, like Lou said, just listen to your kids, see what they actually are wanting to do through the Marine Corps, and somehow you can get that from the Marine Corps. Where there's people like, hey, I just want to join the Marine Corps to get girls. Well, hey, it's gonna happen. I promise you. You're gonna put on the suit. You're gonna look good, but you're gonna get girls. Hey, people want to go to college. I'm gonna tell you how the Marine Corps can help you go to college. Like, the streets are gonna tell you. That's what honestly helped me make it off the duties, just by listening to what they wanted.
Yeah, I disagree a little bit with Ant. There's certainly, like, in my opinion, there's certainly the science to it and the art to it. I think the science is, in my opinion, the most important part, and I say that in the sense of what we do as Marine recruiters is undisputably the best amongst the military services, right? Like our structured interview system. And although if you solely go off of the science, right, the manual, you're going to sound robotic. So there has to be an art to balance it out, right? Because we're not speaking to Marines. We're kneecap to kneecap with somebody who's never sat in front of a military person before. So we have to be able to relate to them as well. Recruiting school will teach you in the sense of they're telling you don't be robotic, but essentially, if you know the science, you'll graduate. And I can say that like when you graduate, you get stationed at wherever you're getting assigned to at. One of the first things that you do out there is you go to PAR training, which is like you and all the other new recruiters will go to the head shed for a week or 2 weeks, and you kind of just recap all the stuff that you learned in recruiting school. And you kind of do that, and everybody's kind of explaining like how their experiences have been out there. But one way that I found to measure myself against my peers is compare my numbers to the numbers I went, or the numbers of the people in PAR training. We all got out there at the same time. And what I realized is myself and one other recruiter were hands down like the best in our PAR class. And, me, like, I mean, whatever my personality was, but the other guy that was writing the same numbers that I was writing, he was a little bit of an awkward speaker, and then you had the other guys in there that had like, some swag to them and whatever. But they hadn't even wrote a contract. Me and the other kid, we've written, I don't know, like 5 contracts at this point. And I remember going through that PAR training and they're asking, this or that. And the guy that had all the swag in the world, he recruited like in the hood. And he said, yeah, what we do over here at this RSS is because our system is called MC3, right? That's what we use to talk to kids, the structured system. He's like, we use what we call ghetto MC3. And mind you, his RSS is continuing to miss mission, and this guy hasn't written a contract. Like, and it's not disrespect to this guy, but he hadn't mastered the science of it yet. And the ARI, the assistant recruiting instructor, he told us right there, he's like, well, maybe you should just learn MC3 first. You're trying to change this system and you don't even know what MC3 is. And I think it couldn't be further from the truth. Like, I think he was absolutely right. But to get a little bit more into the art, I think that I did a good job of learning the science and the art. I was lucky enough to have somebody like Lou, and we had these other 2 recruiters. They're all very good recruiters. And I was able to witness them and see how they interacted. And they were, each of them, completely different people. One's white as snow, the other one's black as night, and the other one's from Puerto Rico. And then, and they all had different personalities, but they all were putting bodies into the Marine Corps. And so I was able to, just like, if I'm trying to become a good leader and I want to pick leadership styles and traits from those around me and leave out the stuff that I didn't necessarily like, I was able to do that. And that's where my art came into it, right? And I was successful. But what I will say though is, once I became the boss of that office, I learned very quickly that I was pretty good at putting people in because I've done well with the science and the art. What I was bad at was teaching my own art to other people. I wasn't great at showing Ant the art. I mean, he might have witnessed me do some things and he might have learned from me. But if somebody told me like, hey, take your recruiter out there and show them exactly how to do it, I wasn't good at performing in that way, because at that point there wasn't a science to that. You know what I mean? Like I didn't have an instruction manual of how I'm supposed to teach this person. And I could go out with Ant and have him watch me from a distance and I'll go up to somebody. If I went up to 5 people, I could probably get phone numbers from 3 of them. But he can't hear what I'm saying, because if he was standing there right there with me, it's messing up my art. So
Yeah.
I guess that is the way that I would explain it. There's definitely a balance in there. I think the science of it's very important, because that's what makes us Marine Corps recruiters, to answer your question.
Yeah, so for as far as drill sergeant duty, again, I think me and you are have the same issues, because I had, drill sergeants that I need to teach, but sometimes I would tell them, like, you got to do it like this, and I wasn't very good at explaining how
Yeah.
to manage the art, right? There is, a lot of gunner sergeants that get to DI school, or staff sergeants that get to DI school, and for some reason they think that because they're gunnies and staff sergeants, they're gonna get treated different. No, you're not. However, whenever you get to the trenches, and whenever you get to your first company, you're probably gonna move up faster than others because of your rank. But while you're in the high school, you're not. But needless to say, there's a lot of people that don't manage the art, or don't get down the art, and they move up fast. That just happens. Sometimes people get relieved. Sometimes, people get hurt and they get kicked out, or they don't get kicked out. They get sent to support battalion, and it just so happens to the gunner sergeant be the next one up. So they just got to fill the spots, right? And sometimes it's politics. It's a lot of politics.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he's done, he's done 1 cycle of everything, maybe 3 cycles, and he's got to be a chief now. So he doesn't know the art to it. And I've seen sergeants dominate it, and sergeants outperform gunner sergeants all the time while on DI duty, because they know the art. They know how to get a whole platoon to buy in. They know how to get the whole platoon to, like, okay, one recruit to do what he's told in an efficient manner. They know how to train their hats, because ultimately it comes down to that. You know how to train your hats, you'll be fine. So I think I did manage the art and the science behind everything. There's obviously IT is the biggest disciplinary tool, but the art, right? If you know that the IT session is about to finish and you have to go to chow, there's an art to it. Hey, you still can squeeze some juice out of that recruit with discipline. There's an art to it. I'm not gonna tell you what it is, but there's an art to it. But yeah, that's it for my part as far as the art and the science of it. So has there been any cases where, there's a gunner sergeant that gets to recruiting school and gets to the fleet and moves up fast and doesn't dominate the art?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's 100% accurate. If it happens on the depot, it certainly happens out in the recruiting streets as well. From my experiences, as far as rank goes, I know that there was a gunny that was out there, that got out there after me, and because he didn't like the fact that he's a canvassing recruiter working for a staff sergeant, and he wasn't taking orders the way he needed to. But instead of, that gunny being held accountable, they pick him up and they move him up to the head shed, and he's now working the sergeant major's delayed entry program. So, and that's a blessing, right? It's like, dude, you spent 6 months in the streets. We got to spend 36 months out there. And, so he's just up there, showing up at 8, leaving at 1700, as far as I know, right? I hadn't walked a mile in his shoes, but I know that he wasn't on the bag, and the bag is what makes the duty stressful. So when it comes to rank, I've seen things like that. But I think more importantly than the rank, what we see a lot of times is there's a bad mixture of how this what I'm about to say happens, and that's choosing who becomes the staff NCOIC of a recruiting substation. Because on one hand, you're going to take the guy who writes all the contracts. I mean, the dude's a bone roller. Like, yeah, we want him leading the office. Or you're going to take the guy that can't write any contracts. We need to get him out the streets, but we don't want to pay to move him somewhere or whatever. He doesn't deserve to get kicked off the duty. We're going to make him the boss. But then maybe the bone roller wanted to be the boss. That's why he was working so hard. And now you got this bone roller that has to work for this person that he's been carrying all of this time. Or the bone roller becomes the staff NCOIC, but he was the one writing all the contracts, and now he becomes a staff NCOIC, and the office is struggling because now the staff NCOIC isn't out there writing those contracts. So I'm not saying that I have the answer to how to fix that. I've seen this go both ways. But I think that if they're going to appoint somebody into a higher position, one, the person should want it. Two, they should be able to demonstrate that they can perform in that position. And yeah, I definitely think that there needs to be a structured way of going about it, vice a quick decision from somebody on the command deck who knows the recruiters, but doesn't know them, right? They don't live in that office because that office is 3 hours away. But yeah, so that's my answer on it. I don't know the answer of how to fix it. I've definitely seen this, and I definitely know that people got issues. Recruiters have issues with either way that goes.
The biggest thing is, between the art and the science, somebody that's able to do both well, not necessarily teach. I think teaching comes with time. And I think you both being able to identify that as a shortfall goes a long way to your leadership and knowing that, something you can improve on or could have improved on, right? So that's to me, that shows good leadership, knowing where some of your shortfalls are. But when it comes to at least the recruiting aspect of things, definitely somebody that wants it, and definitely somebody that has been there and shown proficiency at it. Because when you put somebody that doesn't want to do it and is barely making it, it's just not going to make it for a good product. I don't think it's also fair for Marines to show up and do 3 months on the streets and then the rest of their time managing a program just because of their rank. They get to essentially get a pass, right? And they still get the ribbon, which is crazy to hear because they weren't really on the bag. So I don't think it's fair to everybody else that is held to a standard, that's stressed, that's getting kicked out of the duty because they weren't successful. I mean, we're all big boys and girls here. It is what it is.
Yes, we've all seen a gunny go out there and not be able to take orders from a sergeant or staff sergeant that's leading that RSS. And like Lou said, like, I don't think you should get the ribbon. The fact that you going up to, the head shed and become the pull program specialist. And then, if I have to go up there because I'm in a mission, you talking shit to me and you never really experienced it.
Yep.
It's crazy, but that's something else. That's all I got to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so it just becomes frustrating, right? Because essentially you have a staff sergeant. At the time, I was a sergeant. And sometimes you got to yell at them, right? And you got to be like stern. And it's not, behind closed doors, you respectfully address the rank, staff sergeant. I need you to put on the effort. But like in the street, in front of recruits, like, I need you to fucking run faster. Let's go, right? But they take that as a like, ego slap, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, you talking to me like that, sergeant? What the fuck is oh hell no, right? Because they never experienced that in the fleet, right? And you also got the same rank, right? Sergeant and a sergeant, right? And they bump heads, like, hey, you ain't gonna talk to me like that, but no. You got to listen to your boss, right? So essentially, it becomes frustrating because there are some people that don't get the art and the science down, and they move up too fast, and then they're in charge of you. And they don't know what the fuck they're doing, right? And they're telling you what to do, even though you have this fucking great plan in place, and they end up sometimes sabotaging your plan. And it just comes down to humble to whoever's listening to this podcast. If you're gonna go to either recruiting duty or drone sergeant duty, I think you should go in with a humble mindset. If you are a staff sergeant or a gunner sergeant, or even a sergeant yourself, just don't go in saying like, oh, this person thinks he's better than me, or he's trying to talk down on me. Hell no, I'm not gonna let that happen. I think it just comes down with a humble mindset. Respect goes both ways, but at the end of the day, you have to put in the effort. You have to work.
Yeah, I would completely agree with all of that. I mean, whether it's recruiting duty, it's drill instructor, or even in the fleet, because you could go out as a recruiter, as a sergeant, come back as a staff sergeant, go back to the fleet. You're a staff sergeant, but you've never been a chief of your section before. Sometimes you need to just humble yourself and, learn from your sergeant that hasn't been plucked out of his MOS yet. Just sit back, observe a little bit, lead where you need to lead, but most importantly, like, just be open to instruction. I think that will take you a long way. I think we covered a lot of things between part 1 and part 2 here with Battle Buddy Banter. Josh, I really appreciate you coming on to this podcast. I know you shouted it out in the last episode, but go ahead and let the viewers know where they can find you at.
Of course, you can find me on Instagram. You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on TikTok. You can find me on Threads. That's pretty much it. You can find me under battle_buddy_banter.
Yep. Yeah. If you guys haven't checked out his social media platforms, they really are hilarious. Like, I was super excited to get you onto the podcast and get your perspective. I don't know if I'm fully convinced that drill instructor is harder than recruiter, but I also don't think that was necessarily the goal here. Hey, there's grass on each side of the border. Some people are going to become a recruiter. Some are going to become a drill instructor, and we don't always got the choice of which one we become. The big takeaway is do what you do when you get assigned to your duty, accomplish that mission, communicate, but make sure you got the notification bells turned on so you're notified every time we drop a new episode. Like the video if you like the video, people. Drop a comment down below if there's anything that you kind of want us to touch bases on. Battle Buddy Banter, I appreciate you coming on. And until next time, people.
Okay.